And so at the time when you were asked to join Guns for the Use Your Illusion sessions, were you in Colorado at the time, or were you back in LA?
Guns moved out of that studio after 3 months or so, which seemed like 5 years with all the stuff. And but we stayed there, at that studio, and so I was still living on the street basically when I was asked to do that. And as a matter of fact, I think Axl was kind of concerned because he couldn't get a hold of me. I'm like, well, that's because I don't live anywhere. That's fine. I don't know what to tell you, And so the first thing they did was they put me in a little studio apartment in Hollywood, which was my first place, and very cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And when they asked you to join, what was the context? Were there specific songs that they wanted you to play on?
Well, the first thing I did was I went and played on Civil War.
Beautiful. So
this is before Use Your Illusions. This was a single for a compilation record. I don't know. I don't want to say. I think it was a Romanian Orphans.
Interesting. I had no idea. I always thought it was released first on
I know, it was included.
Wow.
So and this was Steven's still playing drums at this time.
Yeah.
And so I went down to. First, I went up to Slash's house. We went over the song, and then we went to the studio, rehearsal place, and then into the studio to do it. And it was that was something, man, because I was like the triumvirate of terror. I look up in the control room, there's like Slash and Duff and Axl.
Yeah.
And they're all telling me different things. And I was freaking out because I didn't realize they tuned down a half step. And so not only does the band tune down a half step, but the piano that they had at rehearsal was tuned down a half step. I don't have perfect pitch. I didn't know that. I was playing along. So I go to play this song, and it's in a different key. I'm like, oh my God. So with that pressure to try to transpose everything on the spot on a deadline, and this is like a make or break thing for me at this point, but I got through it, and I think in a lot of weird ways playing it in E flat gave it a style that it wouldn't have had, right? So as a matter of fact, whenever I played, I never play it the same way twice, because I could never really emulate that unless I played on the black keys, and I don't. So
And what was because Appetite was obviously a very rock, guitar heavy record. Use Your Illusion was just an expansive opus of different sounds. What was the reaction of the other members of the band to include the piano player?
Well, I think first of all, Axl, when he hired me originally, it was so that I could play his piano parts live, and because he didn't, want to, or for whatever various reasons, and so I knew that, but I kind of like was feeling my way around, like what if I play on this song or that song, and add some things, and I gotta say, the other guys were a bit resistant to it at first, and they did not make my life easy.
How so?
Well, I look at it as like sort of a hazing or initiation or whatever you want to call it. But I was determined to win them over. That was just like, there's no way. I'm not going away. This gig is so I think over time I did win them over. But
absolutely,
it wasn't easy. I think it's and luckily enough, I had Axl's support and the producers, Mike Klink. We added, if you listen like Dust and Bones, there's piano and organ on that, and I don't know. I think it really adds sort of it creates that mood, that I could hear that in my head. Like if we did that on that song, I think it would really accentuate whatever's going on there. So there's a few other songs pretty tied up and stuff like that. So and also adding what I could, harmonies and backup vocals. Actually, I think the first thing I recorded, and we'll have to fact check, but I'm pretty sure, because I was there, for Civil War was I did the harmony on the chorus, I don't need your Civil War part.
Amazing.
before I did piano. So it's kind of weird, but that's how I remember it.
And how long were those sessions to record? There's so many songs on both those albums. Was it a long, extended period of recording?
An eternity.
Yeah.
But it was great. And for me, it was a learning experience. You know, it was the first time I was really involved with anything like that at all. And to have access to these things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what if we had a clavinet on Bad Apples? And next thing you know, there's a clavinet there. I'm like, wow, that was easy. Holy shit, that's how it works. You know, that, yeah, to be involved on that level was a wondrous learning experience.
And was at that time the idea that you'd also be touring with the band?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was probably, you know, more of a thing than the recording.
And is it right that your first show was Farm Aid, or was it the Rock in Rio?
Rock in Rio.
Rock in Rio. That must have been insane to
Yep.
go from homeless, living in a studio,
Yeah.
to playing for 90,000 people, something like that.
I was unhoused.
Unhoused, yes.
That's
a better way to put it.
That's
That's
not
right.
cool. I shouldn't say that. I was doing the couch tour, I like to say. Yeah, no, that was my first show with GNR.
Do you have any distinct memories of that?
It's a bit blurry, but yeah, it was just you know, it was a sort of pinch yourself experience. Really, it really was. It's 100,000 crazy people.
Yeah,
And I mean crazy in a good way.
yeah.
Appreciative, I guess. Passionate. That's the word. Passionate. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And User Illusion wasn't out at that point,
No,
right?
no, we toured a lot before those came out, and I believe we were. I want to say we were actually in maybe in Europe or something when they did come out. I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, a lot of people were scratching their heads actually because these are songs they'd never heard.
Oh, so you were playing all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I could be wrong, but I think at Rock in Rio we opened with Pretty Tied Up.
Beautiful.
I think, and so there was a lot of what's that? But
Well, I'll never forget. I mean, I was probably 12 or 13 at the time when that came out, and I was a huge fan of Appetite. And then when User Illusion was coming out, it was such a big deal that I went in the early morning, the day it came out, to the warehouse in Woodland Hills and bought it that day. And I think that there was a song in the Terminator 2, so there was a music video for that.
You Could Be Mine.
And that it just felt like there was so much energy and so much excitement for that
sure.
album. It was,
And I mean, yeah, that song still is just, those songs hold up.
yeah.
That's the thing, you know. It's so over time they really, really do. And You Could Be Mine is just, there's so much energy in that song.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing stuff, for sure.
And we talked about real briefly this album, which I'm going to pull out, Spaghetti Incident, which
Yeah.
you mentioned is one of your favorites, or your favorite. It's actually my favorite as well.
You know, it might be my favorite Guns record. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. I love it. I actually absolutely love it.
So tell me kind of the impetus of how you ended up doing a covers record.
I think it's just something they wanted to do.
Was it the idea that this stuff would be released, or was it just songs you all liked and were jamming on?
I think with Guns, with Axl, everything's planned out.
Yeah.
Ahead of time. Yeah, and that was part of the deal.
Yeah, this introduced me. I bought this one also the day it came out. It was maybe a year later, 2 years later. Well, let's see what the date is on it. 93, so it was probably a year later.
Yeah.
This was my introduction to a lot of these great classic punk songs.
And to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And myself included, actually.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been part of the reason for doing it. Really.
Yeah, to shine a light on some of these artists.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any recollection of the Manson song that was on this and how that ended up being included?
No, I didn't.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.